First of all, hello and welcome everyone. It's so nice to have all of you here for this webinar about housing for future students here at Aarhus University. I've been looking very much forward to hosting this webinar today, and it's very nice to see so many of you here. My name is Sophie, and I work at the International Office here at Aarhus University. And the program for today, I have with me as presenters my colleague Karen Jensen from our housing office, and she will explain to you the different options that you have for housing and how the process works. And then afterwards, we will hear from two of our current international students, Anita from India and Xuanwei from China, so that you will also get a student perspective on housing. At the end, we will have a Q&A. So please, if you have any questions, do write them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and then I'll make sure to get to them by the end. For your information, this webinar is also recorded so that you will be able to watch it at a later time, and you will also receive the presentations from today so that you'll be able to access those as well. And we have scheduled this webinar for about an hour so that you know when we'll come to an end. And with that, I will leave the floor to you, Karen.
Thank you, Sophie. Can you see my screen now?
Not at the moment, no.
No, okay. What about now?
Yes, it works perfectly now.
Good. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Karen. I work at the AU Housing, and I'm here today to share some information about how to find a place to live if you join us here at Aarhus University. Let's get started. So, Aarhus University has its main campus in Aarhus, which is located in the eastern part of Jutland, which is this peninsula you see here. But we have campuses all over Denmark, some smaller ones and some larger ones. And one of the bigger ones is located in Herning, which is about 100 kilometers west of Aarhus. So some of you might be studying at Herning and others in Aarhus. Since it takes some time to travel from Aarhus to Herning, and it's also quite expensive, we recommend that if you study in Herning, you also find a place to live in Herning. And if you study at Campus Aarhus, you will find a place to live in Aarhus. I'll start telling you a little bit about how to find a place to live in Aarhus, and then at the end of our presentation, I'll tell you a little bit about the options in Herning. So, housing options in Aarhus. Basically, there are these options. You can apply through us, which is AU Housing. We dispose of some dorms and some shared houses. You can also apply for housing through Student Housing Aarhus, which is dorms. And then finally, you can find a room at the private market. I run through all three options now. The easiest way to find a place to live is if you decide to apply for housing through AU. There's an application deadline on the 1st of May, so you still have a few weeks to consider if this is for you. I have sent you the link here. You can have it from Sophie later on as well. We have a web page describing all the options that I'll tell you about today. So after the presentation, you can go to this web page and study all the options in more details. If you choose to apply for housing through AU, I have here listed the different options that we offer. We have single rooms. We don't have any double rooms. So if you want to stay with a partner, you should apply for a 1-bedroom apartment. If you are 2 friends, not a couple, but 2 friends, you can apply for 2 single rooms in the same apartment, which is the type 4 on this sheet. But we have single rooms in dorms, either with shared or with private bathrooms. Then we have shared houses where you share a house with other international students, and you share the bathroom and the kitchen. You can, in most of the houses, there are about 6, 7, 8, up to 10 students sharing a house. Then we have also some single rooms in apartments, either only where you share with just with 1 friend or with 2 or 3 other students. And then finally we have what we call studio apartments. It's a small apartment with just 1 room with a private kitchen and a private bathroom. These are the options that we have at AU Housing. If you choose to apply for, I'll get back later to the difference between applying through AU Housing and Student Housing Aarhus, but now I'll just explain you what is Student Housing Aarhus. In Aarhus, the municipality has decided that you, instead of applying for each dorm separately, they have collected all the different dorms in one office, so you have to apply at only one place. So when you go to their homepage, you can create an application, and then you can choose all the different dorms that you can find in Aarhus. There's no particular application deadline, contrary to AU Housing, where you have to send in your application before the 1st of May. At Student Housing Aarhus, you can send in your application any day. They have a waiting list, so the sooner you send in your application, the better chances you have to receive a housing offer. So if you send in your application today and you decide to arrive in August, you will already have 3 months waiting time at the waiting list. So we recommend that you send in your application as soon as possible. It's free of charge. I have set in the link to Student Housing Aarhus here. So please visit the place and look for the options they offer there. They have 2 different kinds of application. One is without a housing guarantee. It means that you yourself specify which dorms you are interested in. Or another type of application is with the housing guarantee. And I'll go tell you more about the housing guarantee, what it means, in a few slides' time. So let's start with how you apply without the housing guarantee. As I said before, when you open your application, you can choose which dorms to apply for. It's a very long list with more than 100 different dorms. So you can read about each dorm separately and decide, is this a dorm for me or not? You can see the price, the estimated waiting list, the size, and all details at this page. There's no guarantee that you will have accommodation at the beginning of your studies, because most of the dorms have a longer waiting list. Some of them even have years of waiting list. The most popular dorms can have up to 3 years of waiting time. So we recommend that you also choose some of the dorms with the shortest waiting list, like 3 to 6 months. That will enhance your chances of being offered a room from the start of your arrival. If you are arriving together with a partner or friend, you can apply for a 2-room apartment. And which is special here is that you will receive a maximum of 3 housing offers. So if you receive a housing offer which you don't like, you can decline it. That you can do 3 times. But when you receive the 4th housing offer, you must accept it. Otherwise, you will have to start to create a new housing application and then start all over from the bottom of the waiting list again. Student Housing Aarhus offers a housing guarantee. This is an addition to the normal application that we just talked about. So you can still apply for the specific dormitories that we just talked about, but you can also choose to apply for the housing guarantee. If you do so, you are secured that you will have a housing offer. The problem is that the accommodation on offer for the housing guarantee are those accommodations with the shortest waiting list, meaning also the less popular ones. You will get only single room accommodation. So if you arrive with a friend, this is not a good option for you. And you will only get 1 housing offer for the housing guarantee, but you can decline it and then you can just remain at the normal waiting list for the dorms that you have selected yourself. If you choose to apply at Student Housing Aarhus, you go to their website. On the top of it, you click Create an Application. Then after that, you decide, do I want to apply for the housing guarantee or not? There's actually no reason not to apply for the housing guarantee because you can just say no and then remain at the waiting list. And then very importantly, you have to activate your account, your application every month. Every month you will gain another month's seniority at the waiting list. So if you today send in your application, today is the end of April. If you again log into your account in the end of May next month, you will already have gained 1 month's seniority at the waiting list. So if you do so for the next 3 months, then by the end of August, you will have 3 months waiting seniority at the waiting list, which will enhance your chances of being offered a good place to live. Let's take a short look at the differences between AU Housing and Student Housing Aarhus. At AU Housing, we are unfortunately not able to provide a housing guarantee because we have only a limited number of rooms available. We offer furnished accommodation. All of our rooms are furnished. We offer 1-year contracts, which is a maximum. So if you are going to study in Aarhus for more than 1 year, you will have this first year to get familiar with Aarhus, and then you have to find a more permanent housing solution yourself during this first year. We have short termination deadlines, normally about 1 month or 6 weeks. We send our housing offers to only 1 person. So if you receive a housing offer from us, you accept it, you will be sure to have it. And then we provide all our information in English. Student Housing Aarhus is primarily a place for Danish students. So a lot of their information is in Danish, but they have also some information in English. As we just talked about, they offer a housing guarantee, so you are sure to have a place to stay if you choose to apply for the housing guarantee. They have really many rooms, more than 10,000 rooms, so there are a lot to choose from. Unfortunately, all their rooms are unfurnished. The good thing is that you can stay there for as long as you are a student. You have to check, when you receive your housing contract, you have to check the termination deadlines because it can be up to 3 months. And then the special thing about their system is that when you receive a housing offer, you can see that it is sent to 5 to 20 people. So if, for instance, you receive a housing offer and you can see that you are number 10, then you are dependent, then the first 9 applicants decline the housing offer. So you cannot be sure that you, even if you accept the housing offer, that you will actually get it. But said all that, it's the same dorms, it's the same price, so you will not see any difference. It's just that AU Housing has secured a few rooms in each dorm, so you will live together with all the other students, so there are no special dorms for AU Housing. It's the same dorms. It's just that we have been able to have some rooms and we have furnished them, so we are able to offer them to our international students. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the private market. Of course, we have a lot of private rental companies in Aarhus, and it's not too difficult to find a room at the private market. About the price, normally it's cheaper to live in a dorm because there are some kind of state support. So the price is normally a bit higher at the private market. You have to pay, normally you have to pay a higher deposit at the private market. Normally in a flat from a rental company, you have to pay both a deposit and a prepaid rent, which can be up to 3 months rent. So very often you have, before you can take over the housing contract, you have to pay 6 months rent in total. So it can, if you don't have a lot of money from the start, it can be a little bit problematic at the private market. We have a few tips for the private market. It's difficult and expensive to find rooms in the city center. So it could be a good idea to apply for rooms a little bit outside the city center. There's easy access to public transportation in most of Aarhus. It's a good idea when you, for instance, at Facebook, that you write a little bit about yourself, tell some, maybe post a picture or say something about your hobbies or anything that will give the landlord a good impression of you. And then you have to check if the accommodation is furnished or partly or not furnished at all. That was about Aarhus. Some of you are going to study in Herning. In Aarhus, we don't have accommodation on campus, but in Herning, the campus in Herning is located a bit outside the city center, and you will find a housing on campus. And so you have in Herning to decide whether you want to live on campus or you want to live in the city center. You can apply through us. Again, we have some rooms at campus. You can also apply for rooms through housing organizations. It's like Student Housing Aarhus in Aarhus, but it's just that there are some housing organizations doing the same things in Herning. And finally, you can also find a room at the private market if you choose to do that. If you go to our homepage, we have described the processes in finding housing in Herning there also. And if you have some questions regarding Student Housing Aarhus, I have written their contact information here. And if you have some questions for me, you find my email here. It's very easy. It's housing@au.dk. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen. That was great to hear. Very informative. And now I will leave the stage to Xuan Wei. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I will share my screen and hope you can see that. Yeah, my name is Xuan Wei, and I'm a master's student in computer science here, and I come from mainland China. And I have been living here for 1 year and 8 months. And if you have any questions, you can contact me via email. About my hunting for housing, it has been about 2 years ago. When I first came here, I applied for a studio from AU Housing. And then I find probably I can find a better accommodation. Then I moved to a 2-room apartment. I got that from student housing Aarhus. About the housing I got from AU Housing that is located in Hisco, and a lot of student accommodation locates there. So you will find a lot of people living there, and probably you are enrolled in the same program. That's quite easy for you to know people and to have some parties or go out eating and shopping together. And it's close to Skyview Center. It is a shopping center consisting of some supermarkets, some pharmacy, and some other small shops. And it's quite close to the bus stop. And it takes me 20 minutes by bus to my department. And I want to mention that in Aarhus, it's quite easy to get access to the public transport. So even if you live a little bit outside the city center, you can still easily go to the city center within 20 minutes or within 30 minutes. And I remember that I had a video recording about my accommodation upon my arrival. I think it works fine. It's located in the Escort, and it's a studio, and sorry. And here it is a bathroom. It's my own, and oh, sorry. And you can see that AU Housing applies everything you need upon your arrival. So it's quite convenient for international students, especially for non-EU students who came to Denmark for first time. And it applies some basic furniture for you, so you don't need to buy anything you need from IKEA or some place else when you first arrive here. And you can see that the surroundings are quite perfect to live. And that's all. And you can see you have everything you want, everything you need from AU Housing. So it's a perfect choice for you if you never come to Denmark before. But because I want to live in I want to have some larger space, and then I apply through the student housing Aarhus for a 2-room apartment. It's located in the west of Aarhus, and it's also close to many supermarkets, and it's quite close to my department. And the same, it's quite close to bus stop, and then 10 minutes by bus to my department. And another reason for moving is that many friends live in this area. So you can see my new, at that time new apartment located in the at the rooftop, and it's in a quite pretty environment, and it's quite new. It's brand new. Yeah, I feel quite lucky to find such a housing through student housing Aarhus. But one thing I need to mention here is most accommodation from student housing Aarhus is unfurnished. So you need to buy a lot of things. You need to move. That's why I don't recommend non-EU students to apply through student housing Aarhus before arrival. And here is some tip for you to find accommodation. Before arrival, I suggest you apply for housing through AU Housing as soon as possible. As you have already known, the application deadline is the 1st of May. And meanwhile, you should create an account on Student Housing Aarhus and select housing, because then you can earn some seniority. Then you can rank high if you get an offer. And after arrival, probably if you are not so satisfied with your accommodation, you can find some housing located in the same areas of your friends here. And you can also look for some secondhand furniture in the Facebook group, or you can go to IKEA or JYSK to buy something. And I really appreciate that I can use my opportunity to go to see my offered housing before accepting that. So you can feel the environment, you can feel the housing, the conditions before you really move into that. And that's my suggestions and my experience. And then we can hear about Anita's view.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Xuanwei. And do remember, if you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A, and then we will take them after Anita's presentation on her experience with finding housing. All right, Anita?
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. So yeah, I'm here in Aarhus since August 2020, and I'm in my second semester of MA Intercultural Studies. Actually, I arrived in Aarhus as part of an agreement with my home university back in India, and where I can do 1 year of my master's in India and my second year here, and that's how I'm here. So when I applied for the courses, when I created an application to choose courses, and that was when I also applied to AU housing, because we got an instruction sheet saying that you can apply for AU housing for accommodation as an international student, which I'm sure all of you would have got the links. And that's when I created the link. And just as Karen had showed, we had these accommodation types, and I wanted to, live in a dorm where I could live with many other people. I wanted that experience of interacting with internationals. So I chose the dorm was one of the options, and with a shared kitchen. And luckily for me, I got what I chose. And I lived in a dorm called Asko Collegiate. It is about 10 minutes walk from the train station. I live literally in the city center. And there's every shopping supermarket that you can imagine that's in Aarhus. It's there within 10 minutes of walk from where I live. And I'm very, very fortunate for that. And the main shopping area, that is the old city and everything, is about 20 minutes walking from where I live. And I also live very close to the forest, and which kind of gives me a lot of encouragement to go on runs, especially given that it's very sunny and beautiful these days. And in terms of my accommodation, I share the accommodation with 12 other international students. And there are 3 of them who are Danish, and of course, 7 who are, 8 who are international students. They come from America, Canada, and they are from China, from Italy. So it's a very mixed culture dorm. And also, it was when I arrived, fortunately, it's like Chinwei mentioned, that AU housing, you have it furnished. But there have been instances where some of my friends who went through student housing Aarhus, they did not have furnished apartments and stuff. And the first night is always very, very challenging. When you arrive like that, you come and you open the door, and then there is absolutely nothing. Please let me tell you, there is just going to be a lamp and there will be a heater. Especially if the accommodation mentions unfurnished, that's how it's going to be, because I helped one of my friends move to an accommodation she had got to student housing Aarhus, and there was nothing. And we had to I went back to my room and got some sheets that I had and the pillow I had so that she could sleep for the night there. But finding furniture is not difficult. And I will second what Chinwei said, like you can go to Facebook groups, because you'll get a lot of secondhand stuff, especially in the beginning of the semester, because our seniors would be leaving, who have been living in Denmark for like 1 or 2 years when they would have arrived. And there are a lot of exchange students who come here. They will be selling their stuff and you get those things too. And on top of that, another useful thing I have found is like there was, for example, I needed an extra table in my room and I needed a more comfortable chair than what was there. So what I did was I heard this about this place called as Aarhus Reuse. And there is one thing you can bank on. Denmark is high on recycling and reuse, which is like an excellent concept I found. And this is one place called as Aarhus Reuse. And you can also ask about us in the groups, the WhatsApp groups that you're part of. I'd be more than happy to give more details about it, where you can go and take furniture for free. I mean, I don't even pay for them. So I just went and chose a furniture, and the table, I asked my friend if she will come help me pick it up, and we took it in the bus. Thankfully, the public transport allows us to carry few things in the bus too. So, and also there are a lot of secondhand stores across Aarhus. I mean, any part of the city, any area, there's so many secondhand stores where you can access furniture and things. And also, like I said, Danes are huge on recycling and reuse. So you will find help and getting stuff from many of your friends. You just need to put it in your class groups and things so you can find whatever you need. And in terms of living in the dorm, I've had a very nice time. And I'm here for just 1 year. So the AU housing contract works perfectly for me. And it's always nice to come through AU housing because you're assured of an accommodation. You know, when you come, you don't have to worry about what is there, what's not going to be there. But let's say you don't get it through AU housing, or you didn't make it through student housing, or you didn't do it, you can still come to Aarhus with the accommodation booked in one of the hostels. There's something called as Book One hostel. There are other hostels across Aarhus. And if you are, like, for example, if you book for 7 days, you get a discount, or even an Airbnb. I know one of my classmates who lived in an Airbnb for 1 month because he was very particular about the type of apartment he needed because he had a pet with him and he wanted a pet-friendly apartment. So he came and he booked for 1 month. Airbnb, I know when you look at it in Denmark, it might seem very expensive, but if you book for a longer period, it will work out cheaper too. And like that, you can come, arrive, and you can, search for an apartment that will suit your specific needs if you have specific needs. Otherwise, I would definitely say AU housing is the best available option for us internationals. And just to give you an idea, I live in a single room. It has with a shared kitchen and a shared bathroom. And we have a lot of space around. We have a very beautiful, most dorms come with a very good common room where you have board games and the TV and things for recreational purposes, which is really good. And just to give you an idea, I pay 2,224 kronas as rent. That's roughly about, I think, 300 euros, I think. And yeah, so that's about my accommodation.
Thank you so much, Anita. Great to hear. And now we will open up for the Q&A. So again, if you have any questions, do put them in the Q&A box at the bottom. We have received a question here that Karen, that I imagine that you will be able to answer. If I created an application with my partner, can I still create a single application for me without splitting the other one?
I guess that the question is about student housing Aarhus. Does it say about that?
It doesn't say, but I would imagine.
Okay. At student housing Aarhus, you can create 2 applications. So if you arrive alone, you can create an application. And if you decide that your partner is arriving, you can create a new application for 2-room apartments. You cannot stay 2 persons in a single room. So if you are coming with your partner, you must apply for the rooms that allow 2 persons. So it's not a problem to create 2 different applications. If you apply through through AU housing, my office, then you can write in the comment section that you apply for you and your partner, and then we will provide a suitable place for you. If this was not the correct answer, you have to just to send the question again.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. Then we have a question here. Is it possible to sign up for Student Housing Aarhus and then change which housing you would like afterwards, so that you can get seniority before you know exactly which room you would like?
Yes, no problem at all. You can log into your account every day and change your settings. So that's not a problem at all.
Perfect. Then we have a question. I can answer this, whether the campus for cognitive science is located in Aarhus or Herning. And I can tell you that it's located in Aarhus, so you can use the Student Housing Aarhus for that. And let me just see what we have here. Are partners who are not students allowed to live with me if I am a student?
Yes, both at the AU Housing and at Student Housing Aarhus, you can apply for what we call a two-room apartment, where only one of you must be a student. The other one can live with the student without any problems.
Great. Then we have a question. Are there any accommodation options that are for master's students only?
No, in Denmark, we have mixed dorms. So you will stay with students of all ages, of all genders, and of all kind of studies, not only university students, but also students studying whatever can be studied. So that's a special tradition in Denmark, that we don't separate our dorms. They are kind of mixed in all possible ways.
Right. Then we have a question here. If you have applied both in Aarhus and in Herning, then how you know which campus you will get. But then that will be stated in your admission letter. But then maybe, Karen, you can explain what to do in terms of looking for housing if you have applied in both places.
It's free of charge to create a housing application at both in Herning and in Aarhus. So my suggestion would be that if you are unsure if you are going to study in Aarhus and Herning, that you create applications both at Student Housing Aarhus, at AU Housing, and at the housing organizations in Herning, just to be on the safe side. And if you happen to receive a housing offer after you have been admitted, you can just decline it. It's also free of charge. So that will be the best advice for me.
Great. Then we have a question whether utilities are included in AU Housing.
Yeah, they are. Internet and utilities are included at AU Housing, but not necessarily at the Student Housing Aarhus. In some dorms, they are included, like where Nita lived, they are included, but in other places, maybe electricity is not included, maybe heating and water is, maybe internet is or is not. So you have to check when you go to the web page of Student Housing Aarhus, and you can open each dorm and you can see exactly what the price includes. You can see if there's internet or you have to buy it yourself, if electricity is there or not. So that would be, yeah, you can see that. As you know, the prices of utilities are rising very heavily these days. So that could be a very good idea to secure, if you don't have that much money, that you choose a dorm where these expenses are included, not to run into problems later this year.
Great, thank you for that. Then we have a question here that maybe Shanwei and Anita can share your thoughts. It says, I'm a sociable person who would like to blend in Denmark and have international friends quickly. Which type of accommodation will be suiting to me?
I think you should live in a dorm, but I always live alone, so probably Anita can share about your experience.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. I think a dorm accommodation will be better. And you could take an accommodation. There are two types again. There is one which is a single room with shared kitchen and shared bathroom. And then there is a single room with your own, attached bath, but with a shared kitchen. So probably something like this would be good, because most of the dorms will have about minimum, minimum is 8 rooms, and it might go up to just 14 rooms in a single floor. So you will have rooms on either side. And if you take single room with shared bathroom, the bathrooms will be at the end of the hallway. And if it is an attached bath, you will have a separate bathroom area attached to your room itself. So I think single rooms in a dorm with these two options will be a good thing to go for.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Another question, is it correct that non-EU students can only live in the AU dorm for 1 year? Maybe you can just restate that again, Karen.
Yeah, it's correct. AU Housing offers accommodation for your first year. And during this time, we recommend that you stay at the waiting list at the Student Housing Aarhus. So by the end of the first year, you will have like 12, maybe 14 months of seniority at their waiting list. And you will have a very good option to find some of the attractive dorms in the city center or wherever you want to live. So it's correct, yes.
Great. And do you need a letter of acceptance from Aarhus University to be able to apply for dorms?
That is a very good question. No, you don't need, when you apply, you don't need any documentation that you are a student. You can apply without anything. You just send in your application. But when you receive a housing offer, for instance, in July or in August, you have already been sent the admission letter, and then you will be asked to present it to the housing organization or to Student Housing Aarhus. So for now, you can just apply. It's free of charge. You don't need any documents at all.
Thank you. And in relation to that, how long after applying through AU Housing should you expect to receive an offer?
We start handling the applications in the beginning of May, and we send out housing offers between the 6th of May and the 1st of July. So you will hear from us before the 1st of July, both in the lucky case that you have been offered a house, or in the unlucky situation that we haven't been able to find you a room. We don't know yet how many applications we will have, but we have a limited number of rooms, so we might not be able to find housing for everyone. But of course, we do our very best to help all of you.
Thank you. And then we have a question here. If I apply for Student Housing Aarhus for a 2-bedroom dorm, where my partner will join me after 1 month, can I stay there without my partner for that 1 month period?
Yes, no problem, of course.
Great, thank you for that. And let's see what else we have here. We have a couple of people asking about how to create an account in AU Housing. I don't know if that's too technical to go into, or if you can say a couple words about that.
I recommend that you go to our webpage. It's au.dk/housing, and then you choose, there are 3 options. There are housing for students, for PhD, and for postdoc, and you choose housing for students, and then you find the non-EU category. and there you will find a full description of the application process. And if you have experienced any problems there, you can just send me an email at housing@au.dk. I'll be there every day to answer the questions. So just send me an email if you have any kind of trouble.
Great, thank you for that. Another question that we have received, if I'm starting a new study, do I have to apply for housing again? I assume this is for student housing Aarhus.
No. No. The short answer is no. They don't mind if you study one thing or another. But you have to be a student. You have to prove that you are an active student if you want to live in a dorm. So if you drop out of your whatever you are studying, and then you have a break, like half a year, then you have to move out. So they will check twice a year that you are an active student, and they do that seeing that you take your exams, that you pass your exams.
Great, thank you. Another question relating to the AU housing, is Wi-Fi included?
In most dorms, Wi-Fi is included. If not Wi-Fi, then at least there is internet connection and you can buy your own router. But for AU housing, all of our rooms have internet access. Most of them also have Wi-Fi.
All right. Let us see what else we have here. We have gone through a lot of questions, so it's so good that you keep writing to us. We have one here. After getting the offer, when do we have to pay the deposits?
There are differences between AU housing and student housing Aarhus. So let's start with AU housing. When you receive a housing offer from us, AU housing, to accept the housing offer, you must pay the first month's rent, not the deposit, but the first month's rent, which is normally between 2,000 and 3,000 kroner. That's what is needed for the first month. Then the deposit is charged together with the second month's rent. So let's say you will receive your housing offer in June, and it starts on the 1st of August. Then you must pay the August rent in June, and then you will, in the end of August, you will receive the rent bill for the September rent, including the deposit. So August is your first month and September is your second month, and the deposit is charged together with the second month's rent. This is not the same in student housing Aarhus. I think maybe, John Wei, maybe you can explain how you paid your rent at student housing Aarhus. Do you remember how you did that?
Yeah, just upon my moving in or before my moving in, I paid my rent with my, I think it's the rent for my first month and the deposit together before I'm moving in. But I think it depends on which organization or which dorm you moved in. I think it depends. But in most cases, the deposit and the rent of the first month should pay together.
Yeah, I think so too. That's correct. That you have to pay. The deposit is often up to 3 months rent. So you have to pay the first month's rent and then maybe 3 months rent. So it will be a total of what is equal to 4 months rent before you can take over the contract at student housing Aarhus. Not in all dorms, because there are also cheaper dorms where you pay only like 1 month's rent in deposit. But in most cases, it will be more expensive.
Great, thank you. And then we have a question which I think that Anita or maybe Chuan Wei can answer. If I live in the outside of the Aarhus city center, is it possible to bike to the campus?
Yeah, I live in outside of the city center, but I always take bus. But most of the students will ride to the campus, and you can always see that there are a lot of students riding to the campus. So I think it's not a problem.
Yeah, I will definitely second that. I myself was also a student at Aarhus University and living a bit outside of the city, and it's no problem to bike. It can be a bit hilly here in Aarhus, but you get great bike legs, as you would say in Denmark. Then we have a question here about what type of accommodation would you recommend to a student intending to spend a semester in Greenland? So I guess this is about not living in your accommodation for a while. Do you have any recommendations for that, Karen?
I'm not sure I understood. Is it a question about how to subletting the accommodation that he or she already has, or is it about how to find housing in Greenland? Unfortunately, I don't know anything about.
More the first. As you mentioned, that subletting would be a good idea.
So if you live, if you have a room through AU housing, subletting is not an option. It's actually forbidden. But if you live in a student dorm that you have obtained through Student Housing Aarhus, and you are going abroad on an exchange, it is possible to sublet your accommodation to another student. You can do that either through AU Housing. We will be able to help you to find a new student coming in, or you can do it through Facebook groups or whatever. You have to fill in a special form that you can find on the webpage of Student Housing Aarhus. But it should be no problem.
Great. And then if you compare the private market to the dorms, what facilities are usually included in the dorms compared to the private market?
At the private market, you mainly find apartments where you have your own separate apartment and you just stay there. In dorms, like I think Anita said, in most dorms, you find some common areas like a common kitchen, maybe a gym, music room, a bar, whatever. So in most dorms, or nearly all dorms, you have some facilities where you can socialize, but this is not the pace in play, not normal in normal apartment buildings. You don't have any common rooms.
Good. We have a specific question here, but I will take it anyway. If I apply as a non-EU student first, and during the semester I receive an EU citizenship, will that affect the contract with AU Housing?
No.
All good there.
That's a funny one. Yeah.
Okay, let me just see if I understand this question correctly. Are all housing options except for the private market organized by the university?
Oh, I didn't get that. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, are all the housing options except for the ones on the private market organized by the university? So I guess that only applies to AU housing.
Yeah.
And then Student Housing Aarhus is not through the university.
No, Student Housing Aarhus is not at all connected to Aarhus University. So maybe If that is not a correct answer, then you can send me the question, then I can answer it more specifically.
Yes, thank you. All right, we have one question left here in the Q&A, and it goes, if I arrive on a weekend, can I get the key and move in? If not, can someone get the key in advance?
Let's start with AU housing. If your contract starts on the 1st of August, you can move in any day hereafter, and you can collect your key on any weekday, not in the weekends. So you cannot, you or a friend is welcome to pick up your key, but you cannot pick up your key before your contract starts. So if you arrive in the end of July and your housing contract starts on the 1st of August, your friend cannot pick up your key before your contract has actually started. Regarding student housing Aarhus, is actually a collection of a huge number of different housing organizations, and they all have different rules about everything. So when you receive your housing contract, you will in that be informed about exactly the practicalities about how to move in. So you should definitely take a closer look at that and eventually contact the caretaker in advance before you arrive to make sure that the key is ready for you if you arrive in the weekend.
Great, thank you so much for that, Karen. That was all the questions that we had in the Q&A, and I think that it fits perfectly with the time frame that we set for an hour. So let me just say thanks so much for joining us, everybody, and thank you for your questions. It was so nice to have you here, and we hope all to see you here at Aarhus University, either in Aarhus or in Herning in August or September. So thank you so much, and have a great day out there.